Good morning, friends. Okay, so lately I have had some comments and some questions about this topic, so I just wanted to hop on here and address it. The questions I get a lot are like, why should I pay for herbal workshops or classes or resources when there's so much free content on the internet? I can Google anything. I can find on YouTube an infinite number of people showing me how to make tinctures or formulate a respiratory support. And also now there's AI. So why couldn't I just ask ChatGPT, how to, what herbs to use or how to support this thing I'm having? What's the point of like paying for this anymore? Are we really entering this world? Now, the first thing I want to say is that I think it's amazing that there's so much free access to information right now in the world, because there was a time in the world when a lot of people would never have had access to this. And I'm all about everybody understanding the beauty and power of plant medicine, okay? There's so much we can do to support ourselves holistically and naturally, and also just stepping outside of the medical industrial complex and being able to take our health into our own hands is so empowering, and I think absolutely crucial at this point in our world. Now, that being said, there are some cautions to take as well. As you might imagine, not everything that you read on Google is accurate, okay? And a lot of times, these different search engines, Google and I can't even think of all the names of the different search engines, but many of them are filtering information that they don't necessarily want us to find. So, for one, you're not necessarily going to get access to everything that there is to have access to. And two, your results are going to be slanted toward whatever the narrative is that's being propagated at the time. Okay, so that's one thing to know. Secondly, people on YouTube aren't always showing you the most impactful or effective way to harvest or prepare medicine. And it can be hard to figure out like who knows and who doesn't. And just because somebody's doing it on a video doesn't mean that's the best way to do it. Now, most of the stuff I'm seeing isn't necessarily like going to cause you harm. Now, I don't know, there could be people misidentifying plants on YouTube. I'm assuming that would get recognized, at some point, but you still should watch out for that. But I think for the most negative thing that would happen is maybe you harvest a plant at the wrong time so it doesn't have as much medicine, or you make the medicine in a way that isn't as effective. And so that's why so many people are like, oh, I tried herbs, I tried plant medicine, it doesn't work. My first question is always like, what did you try? How did you harvest it? How did you make it? Where did you get the medicine? What was your dosing? All that matters. Maybe it's not the right plant for you. And that's the thing you can't get for free, is the real relational information that you get when you work one-on-one with herbs. For a long time, you start to get to know the plant and you understand how it works with your own personal body. And that's not something that the internet is going to be able to tell you. Like, what herb is best for me? Like, even AI is not going to tell you that particularly, right? And so that's the value in starting to invest in your own herbal education. If you really want to go down this path, and if you really want to have a tool belt that's not going to fail you when it matters the most, that is nuanced and that is detailed and that can shift as the reality of the situation shifts, then you really do want to invest in some high quality education with people who are trained, and who have, the experience to be able to guide you through that. Okay, so what do you look for in an herbal class or an herbal teacher or even in a video, right? Look at who's teaching. Okay, first of all, how long have they been in the world of herbs? Do they actually have hands-on personal experience? Do they use it in their everyday life? Do they have any sort of credentialing? Have they gone to any sort of school or training? That's not always like, to me, I don't think that's an end all be all, because I know people with very high credentials who are missing the mark on some of the things that I think are the most important. So that's just something you can look for. You can also look for kind of what their influence online is. So some people create content just to get likes and subscribes and all that. And it's really performative. You know, it's more like the aesthetic. I see this all the time in herbalism, like, oh, look how pretty their thing is. Like, that's fine and all. It can be beautiful. It doesn't have to look like that. And also, they're still not doing the right method to extract that plant in the proper way. Do you know what I mean? So that's what matters. And I would say if you're trying to learn about plant identification, make sure that person knows their botany, right? And I would also double check plant IDs if you're relying on something like that. And then second, if they're teaching medicine making, do they have any background in phytochemistry? And this is a real thing. A lot of trained herbalists don't have a background in phytochemistry because some herbal programs don't require that. And to me, that is like number one for making effective medicine. If you don't understand what's alcohol soluble, what constituents are oil soluble or water soluble, whether something needs heat, what toxic constituents might appear in that plant, and then how you can make that medicine safe by reducing the toxic compounds, you know. And so I see a lot of people teaching medicine making, a lot of people who have no training in this. So I think the number one category of people that lately I've seen trying to teach how to make herbal medicine are people who are foragers. So they might be incredibly familiar with the plant world and might have all their species down, and they know what's edible and they know what's dangerous. And that's really good. That's important. But then they're jumping over and saying, now let me teach you how to make this medicine. I'm not saying all foragers are doing it wrong. Certainly some do have the knowledge to do that, but I have seen a good handful of things posted or advertised in the past 2 months even, where it's really missing the mark. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting, you know, that they use like elderberries, for example, and then don't neutralize the toxins at all. And not that everybody is sensitive to those toxins, but when you're putting this out to the general public, you need to include that information, you know, or how to process wild cherry bark. People are just, you know, making a tincture and a decoction as if it's any other bark, and that's not how you do it. It has to be hydrolyzed. There's this whole process to reduce the toxins. And so you do need to have a little bit of caution if you are just going along with everybody who's saying they know anything, right? And so, you know, this is like a nuanced topic because on the one hand, yes, absolutely access all that free information, watch those YouTube channels, you know, get those free guides and watch those TikTok or Instagram reels of people showing you plants and plant medicine. That's wonderful. And on the other hand, just know that not everything is necessarily 100% true, okay? And it's not all going to be 100% effective. And if you want, you know, if you're just a casual like observer of herbalism or you want to dabble, that's probably fine. You're not going to have any issues, right? But if you actually want to like build a solid and effective home apothecary and then really know how to use it for your personal self and your personal family, that's when you're going to want to invest a little bit more in your herbal education. You're going to want to go a little bit deeper. You're going to want to check out the credentials of the people you're learning from. You're going to want to get hands-on experience, right? Not just watching it through a video or looking at a plant through a lens. You're going to want to get out there in the world, find somebody who can take you on a plant walk, get your hands on the plant, spend time with it, notice how it impacts your body, learn about phytochemistry and herbal energetics and formulations, right? And so that's my answer, is that it's complicated and there's nuance. And I do think that there's still a lot of value in paying for classes or workshops or, you know, subscription teachings, anything from these people who are still out in the world, teaching this stuff with a lot of integrity and not doing it to be performative or to get likes, you know, or to pretend like they know something. There's a ton of really beautiful, qualified teachers out there that are going to give you a solid base in your education, and you can still find stuff that doesn't cost an arm and a leg also. You know, you don't have to sign up for the $7,000 herb school. You can piece together your education and still get it from quality teachers. So I hope that is helpful in answering those questions, and maybe some of you had the same questions. So let me know what you think about that. Thanks for listening.